rivers and forests. Join your fellow Americans in the largest volunteer hands-on coast-to-coast event of its kind.
Hey, it's Marette Brown Clark, and I'm joined today by one of the first fresh faces of gospel artists to ever perform, Miss Karan Jones.
Thank you so much for having me.
So it's been about a year since you began with Fresh Faces of Gospel. What's going on?
Well, I'm excited to re-release my project, The Best of Me.
Yay! Congratulations! Actually have the project, yay. When and where are you having your CD released?
Well, I'm having it on Friday, July 14th at 8 p.m. and it will be held at Rooted Bible Fellowship Church, and that's at 1605 Waltman Road in Edgewood, Maryland.
Yes, Reverend Kevin L. Webster is the pastor. Will there be any other artists with you?
Oh, yes, absolutely. We have Theron Fowler, Shannon Ramsey, Naja Scott and Divine Anointing. We have Chester Burke and Company, Joel Imani, and Rooted Bible Fellowship Church Choir.
So if you're an artist, you want to perform, a church or nonprofit that wants to use the Fresh Faces of Gospel platform as a fundraiser, or for ticket information, call 410-705-0123. Get ready, Harford County, Praise 106.1, and Fresh Faces of Gospel is coming to Rooted Bible Fellowship Friday, July 14th.
Eric was way behind on his taxes.
I owed a lot of money to the IRS, almost $15,000.
Eric called Optima Tax Relief.
When Optima Tax got involved, the calls would stop, the threats would stop. It was easy like 1, 2, 3.
Optima Tax Relief took care of Eric's problem.
And now my debt is clean. I don't owe anything.
Call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-845-8122. 800-845-8122.
Optima Tax Relief.
The views and opinions of the guests and host you hear on 1010 WOLB
are not necessarily those of the staff and management of Radio 1, its sponsors, or advertisers.
It's done unto you as you believe. It's done unto you as you believe. I'm gonna get there, yes, somehow. Push my way through the crowd. I'm gonna grab you by the hand to a place we will stand. Stand proud, no fear. It's clear, I believe in you. I believe in me. Oh yeah, I believe that we can make this dream a reality. Yeah, yeah. Now's the time to be. Now's the time for miracles. Oh, it's in my heart so deep. 'Cause I believe.
Yes, I believe. Good morning, Baltimore. Welcome to Patrick Henderson's Meet the People. What a beautiful day. The wind is blowing, and it's blowing hot air, but it's blowing. And we're going to thank God for whatever it is, as long as it ain't snow. Welcome.
Praise the Lord.
Yes, thanks to each and every one of you for joining us. We have an incredible show planned for you today. Please say hello to my co-host, Wayne Ormond Rob.
What it do, family?
And the inimitable, the great one among us, Mr. Leo Burrows Jr. Leo.
Praise God, from whom all blessings flow, and praise the Lord and pass the ammunition for justice, freedom, and decency.
Yes, sir. Well, I tell you, we got some ammunition in the room.
Yes, Lord.
We would like to welcome just an incredible panel and people that are just directly related to all that concerns Baltimore when it comes to our criminal justice system. We would like to first welcome Major Cherie Briscoe of the Baltimore Police Department. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me to sit in this morning. It is a pleasure and an honor to be a part of this panel and this discussion.
Well, we're just so honored to have you here. We are so honored because we really believe that Baltimore is at the precipice of change. and we can't do it until we have a better relationship with the police department. I just don't see anything happening until we know that you all are here to not only protect and serve. We know you got to go get the criminals.
Yes.
But we as a people want to feel safe and know that you're looking after us. We've also got Chief of Patrol Osborne Robinson. Chief, how are you today?
I'm well. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning to all. It's a blessing to be here, and looking forward to a good discussion this morning.
Well, we're so thankful that you came, that you joined Major Briscoe. Wasn't surprised, but she came in with her backup. Okay, we want you all to know we're excited. And then probably one of the greatest attorneys, I believe, in my lifetime that I've ever met. One of the most brilliant attorneys, and his wrote one of the greatest books. I tell you, it was such an education and so prophetic. Would you please welcome Mr. A. Dwight Pettit, attorney?
Amen.
Good morning, Baltimore. Happy to be with you. So thankful, Patrick, for you to have me here today on this Monday morning. And it's such an honor to be here with all of this brass. Ladies and gentlemen, so much brass in the room when the police here. I had to keep on my sunglasses.
That's funny. That's funny.
Very comforting.
I know.
Very comforting.
And I don't want to overlook my other co-host and producer who put all this together for us. Jason Rodriguez, man, you've been a blessing every time. Every Monday, you surprise me. We were talking this morning. He says, "Guess who's coming?" And I said, "Who?" He said, "Major Briscoe." Yeah. And I started dancing. My mom, when she used to get happy, she used to do a little, kind of go in a little bit, as they call it in church, get your praise on. And I said to him, the Bible says, "Seek and you shall find." But when you seek, you got to get up off your derriere and go get it. Go find it and engage. Yes, so, Jason, hands off to you. Thank you for assembling this great panel. And we've got one other person on the line that we want to bring in from the top. Jane Miller from WBAL, the investigative reporter. How are you, Miss Miller?
I'm fine this morning. It's very hot but beautiful day, isn't it?
It's just simply gorgeous. A day. I'm not a Christian, but I believe that God do everything good, and it's just a beautiful day that the Lord has made, and we're honored to have you here because you do such great work, and we know where your heart is for the community. So we're thankful for that you're here, and I'm
happy to be with you.
We're happy.
It's a very important conversation, that's for sure.
Yes, ma'am. And we also have Charlene Foster, who is here from the ceasefire, Baltimore ceasefire that they're planning on August the 4th. So she's going to be joining us as we go through this panel to give input. And we've also got Miss Jane Miller, and we've also got Christopher Burnett from the Baltimore City Council. Christopher Burnett, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming, for accepting the invitation. Man, I tell you what, we don't need an extra hour today to get through all of this. We are. But we're thankful for the time that we have. Well, 3 weeks ago, I went to a meeting with Larry Young's National Action Network. And the week before that, I had gone to a meeting where the mayor was present at the Downtown Cultural Arts Center, where black men, leaders gathered to talk about solutions and things that we thought were important. And I noticed in my area, I live in Ashburton. Mayor lives behind me. Now she's getting ready to move 3 doors down from me. She just bought a new house there. And I was talking to Jason, and I had called the police because there were people in the front of my house that partied for a couple of hours out in the front of my house. And my community is a bedroom community, seniors and people. And normally when they hear noise, their lights come on. You can see them clicking on and stuff. So I called the police and told them. I called them a couple of times. They never came. So I was talking to Jason about response time, and he was telling me that over in Irvington, where he lives, that there was a lady that was sitting on the street watching her house being robbed, and she called the police, and they got there 40 minutes later. one of the business people in Irvington, his son went out into the lobby of their store and tried to clear the guys out who were dealing drugs there, and they beat him so bad, and it took the police 30 minutes to get there. So the question arose in my mind, what is the response time for the police? I asked the mayor. She didn't know exactly, and she directed me to Dr. Andre Bundley to give me some sort of idea. I sent him an email in reference to it, and he said he was going to talk to the city council 2 weeks ago. I haven't heard back from him. But then that following week, I was at the meeting with Larry Young's National Action Network, and Commissioner Davis was there. So I asked Commissioner Davis, I told him that we had looked all over and we have not been able to find anywhere listed the response times of the police to different communities or to any community. And he looked kind of surprised when I said it. And he promised us in that meeting that he would have it, I believe he said it was by that Friday, it would be on the transparency website or the city website stating what those response times were. Well, it's been, 3 weeks now? And is it on there, Jason?
As of today, we still haven't seen an update in the transparency policy page.
In the transparency policy page. Well, hence you all are here. For that main reason, because I know you got to catch the criminals, but you got to protect us too. We can't call you and you all get there 30 minutes later and somebody's there robbing our house. And we looked and we did research on this, and I believe the national response time is 8 to 11 minutes nationally. And so we wondered why that is. So, Major Briscoe, could you help us here for starters, or Sergeant Robinson? Thank you, sir. I'm sorry, Chief Robinson, yes.
Yeah, so first and foremost, let me just address that anytime that you all, meaning the citizens of Baltimore, call the police or 911 because there's an emergency, there is an expectation of a rapid response. And for those reasons, first let me apologize to you and to the community that in those instances that you described, that did not happen. What I cannot tell you at this juncture, because I'm not prepared to answer the question, is specifically the why in those instances. However, that can be researched and I can follow up with you. What I can talk about is some of the things that can contribute to response time.
Okay.
So there's a national average, right? But there are over 18,000 police departments in this country, varying in sizes. So to simply compare Baltimore to the average is one, apples and oranges. You got to compare apples to apples and oranges to oranges. Secondly, specifically, as we talk about response time, the things that can contribute to it. So the way it works is you call 911, that goes into an operator. That operator basically takes the message in. That message is then sent to a dispatcher who then dispatches the call. So in some instances, the hang up is with the person who takes the call. Sometimes the issue is with the dispatcher, the person who sends that information to the police officer. And then sometimes it is the police officer or other instances within that district that have either a higher priority or the volume of incidents that are going on that will contribute to a delay in call. And then sometimes there is an issue with an officer. But the only way to know specifically what the issue was in the instances that you described is to really look at those instances.
Specifically. Miss Miller, Jane, are you there?
I am.
Have you looked at this? Do you have any thoughts on this that you can relate to the audience?
Well,
go ahead.
One of the concerns of the past several months has been the deployment level in the police department and also the deployment strategy. There's been a great deal of discussion about the 10-hour shift, and I think both the major and the chief can probably address that. That is something that happened a couple of years ago with a new union contract where they went to 10-hour shifts as opposed to 8-hour shifts. And now in hindsight, the leadership of City Hall believes that it was a mistake to do that because the patrol levels aren't sufficient enough to staff that. I will say this, and I think this is an important part of the conversation because I've been doing stories for years on the level of funding for the Baltimore Police Department, which is the highest of any agency in terms of general fund funding. And I think there is a very important question that needs to be asked and has been starting to be debated, and that is, there are 3,100 positions in the Baltimore Police Department. There are 1,851 patrol positions. Is the deployment strategy of the Baltimore Police Department sufficient and efficient? And that is, I think that both the major and the chief can probably address that. That is a question that has been asked increasingly so by the Baltimore City Council at some of the budget hearings that have been going on, and also in the community about the level and the deployment strategy. And then there's the third question, which is that question that has been lingering around and just hanging over everything, and that is if the Baltimore Police Department, as have police departments in other cities, has the Baltimore Police Department had a pullback in strategy because of a consent decree and the concern about constitutional policing and the lack thereof that was pointed out by the Department of Justice. So I think that gives you the background of the work we've all been doing, and well, some of us have been doing in media about what's going on with policing in the city of Baltimore.
Yes, ma'am. Very good. Councilman Barnett, do you have comments, sir? This is Irvington is your area. Would you like to, would you have a comment here at this point?
Well, again, I can't, without having information on the specific calls, it's not really much I can add. Other than the fact that, we have, to second what Jay Miller mentioned about the questions that we've been asking on the council, we have been focused on strategy and making sure that, the department is operating as efficiently as possible, especially given the amount of money we do dedicate to the department, which I did raise some issues at the budget hearings about some of the expenditures. But at the end of the day, I do think that the real issue is deployment, having enough officers, attracting people to want to be police officers, especially people who live in Baltimore, which is a priority for me to get our officers to live in communities like Irvington, so that they better know the neighborhood, they better understand the culture of the city, especially West Baltimore. When you're coming from other parts, a lot of our officers do live out of town, and so I have questions about their ability to navigate the neighborhood disputes and things that kind of pop up effectively without actually living in the city. But as it relates to response time, I always tell folks, and it's something I thought, our BPD folks would mention, but when you call 911 and you don't get a response or the officer doesn't come, you can always call and ask that a supervisor actually address that particular call that day.
That is, if you don't get killed while you're waiting, right?
Understood. I mean, when there are serious issues that arise, I mean, people need to be safe, but if there's something that arises, like you called and they didn't come, or they took 30 minutes to come, you can get an answer about that call on the same day, about what actually occurred, and just wanted to put that out there to folks.
Well, we appreciate that. We've got Attorney Dwight Pettit here, and I know Mr. Pettit, he has a case. When I spoke to him and asked him to come on, he has a case, and he's trying to get the information about response time too. Attorney Pettit, what do you?
Well, normally our situation, as soon as we file a suit, we file subpoenas. And what we get is what the chief was talking about, the CAD report. And that shows exactly in terms of the information you were seeking, what time the call came in. And usually the person that's operating the CAD receives the information as to arrival time and what have you. And this is necessary and absolute in a lot of our cases, both criminal and civil. I want to take a liberty, if I may, at this point in time. I would be remiss if I didn't send my condolences and my prayers out to my good friend Warren Brown for the loss of his stepson and Attorney Dorsey and Betty Dorsey, their son, over the weekend. I just wanted to say they're in my prayers.
Yes, to lose a child is just, I hear it's just a grief that is unimaginable.
Unbelievable.
So we are praying for that family. Thank you for the acknowledgement. Did you have any more thoughts about it?
No, I'm more or less getting an education from the police officers here as to what their inside perspective is. But one of the things that you raised that I would disagree, and I would like to hear the officers and the chief respond to. I do believe that there has been a knee taken since Freddie Gray. And I understand that we have a lot of internal problems. I understand there's a lot of confusion in relationship to the consent decree and the constitutional issues that you referred to. But I think the FOP might have something to do with the fact of this taking a knee. But I do believe that is real, because I know there's a big transition in terms of personnel and what's going on with the budget and what have you. But as much as I argue with the police department, they are a necessity for our survival.
Yes, sir.
And this is beyond a crisis. I mean, this is at the emergency level because we as citizens are afraid to step out of our doors.
Yes.
And this is they talk about Chicago, but per capita, Baltimore is the #1 violent crime city in the nation.
Yes,
Mayor Pugh and Commissioner Davis have to do something to get a grasp on this, and I think they have to do it short of bringing in additional federal support. I mean, we got the DEA, we got the FBI, we got Tobacco and Farm, we got the state's attorney's office. All these organizations should be coordinated. So the only thing that's left that we don't have is troops.
It's troops.
And that's going to be the next step if this is not rectified.
Yeah, I hear you. My heart shudders when you say troops, because that means somebody's going to die. And God knows we have enough dying now in this city. But I hear you and I understand why you're saying what you're saying. I wanted to ask Major Briscoe, in the interview that I did with the Commissioner Davis, I seem to feel a little bit of enmity between the Fraternal Order of Police and Commissioner. In fact, there was an article in the Sun where is his name Ryan? I believe his name is Ryan. It's
Gene
Ryan over the Fraternal Order of Police, where he said that his hands were tied because of the fraternal of the consent decree, and that they should just let them do their job. And then we took that to mean beat people upside the head. That wasn't so. But I heard in the commission, I'll play the tape for you, where I could feel there was a little bit of a divide there about what he was thinking and what the Fraternal Order of Police were thinking. Now you can't address that, because I'm not going to ask you to. But is there unity? Is there a working relationship? I know that's your union, but at the same time, there seems to be a different bit of a strategy. The commissioner was very, very gregarious, and I don't know, has anybody ever heard Gene Ryan's voice on the radio on WLB?
So what I'll do is I'll respond to it, and while I cannot get into the head of Police Commissioner Davis, what I can tell you is that both Commissioner Davis and Gene Ryan have a role, and they have a role to our officers, and that role is distinctively different. It's completely different. And so there naturally is going to be some opposition between the president of FOP and the police commissioner, because we're not going to we, meaning the management, aren't going to always agree with things that the FOP want, and vice versa. And that's why the FOP is represented, that's why the body is represented by a union. And this is something that is historically not unnatural to relationships with union and management. So while I can't speak specifically to the instance that you're referring to, just in general, there is always going to be this natural give and take, and sometimes all the I's aren't going to line up and all of the T's aren't going to be crossed in that relationship.
That's a great answer. Very, very diplomatic.
Patrick, can I, if I may?
Yes, Major.
There's a lot of conversation and there are a lot of questions kind of rolling, and I get that you have audience keyed in to share sentiment and concern. But there was a statement made by Mr. Pettit, and I just want to address that in some semblance of a fashion. I can speak for the Western District. I'm the commander of the Western District and a member of the agency, the Baltimore Police Department. And I can say to you that my men and women that I lead every day take no less serious their oath of office and their commitment to community. And I ensure that. And not just about enforcement in terms of taking individuals to jail. So let's be clear. Some people need to go to jail for committing the crimes that they commit. And then there's a group within the population that suffer from different needs that have to be met. And from those needs or the lack thereof, they're committing crimes to be able to deal with that need, address that need. So when I hear that generalization that there's a knee being taken, I want to be clear for the men and women that I lead. I hold myself first and them accountable for the service that we render unto the community and the oath of office that we've taken and our level of commitment to that.
Let me just say this, Major. In no way do I mean to attack the individual police officer that is sworn to do their duty. When I'm saying taking a knee at this point in time, you got to remember there's a lot of instability and a lot of confusion, not just with you all, but police, law enforcement, in terms of the application of the consent decree, and a lot of questions that were raised in the consent decree in terms of the constitutionality of arrest, procedures, police protocol, and what have you. And my thinking is that a lot of officers, although they may have good intentions, may be reluctant to move with the swiftness and the aggressiveness that they've moved in the past, for fear that they might have made a constitutional error and they're going to be sued by a Dwight Pettit or somebody else because they made a faux pas. And so I think the question is generally being raised until we get the monitors in, till we get the interpretations of the consent decree. Is there some holding back or reluctance by police officers to perform their duties because they feel inhibited because of the limbo that we're in with the application of the consent decree to the police officers of Baltimore City?
So if I can add to that a little bit, I can tell you that we as an agency, as a body, we've increased our training hours in terms of our in-service training and have undergone some specialty training just to ensure that our officers are properly equipped to deal with some of those very concerns of constitutional regard. So I don't look at it, and I hear your question. I understand what you're asking, and I know the chief is going to jump in, but I just don't want for the community that we serve to feel like, oh, well, okay, we're just waiting until all these No, lives still have to be saved, and communities still have to be serviced. So there's not a waiting, though we're fine-tuning how we approach different situations so that there's no mistake on our part, but there's no less of an effort. And so there's a duality that exists, right? So there's this demand for, as you stated in your comment, this aggressive policing. But the reality is we have to do that still with a fine hand. There's no sweeping. I'm still going to community meetings that I'm being asked as the commander to, quote unquote, clear those corners. That speaks to the question of constitutionality. Like we have to be honest with ourselves and each other in those moments to say, we've already experienced a riot, a major upset. And that wasn't just about one occasion. That was about the decades or
cumulative,
a cumulative effect of issues and concerns about law enforcement and community. So we have to do the two things, as in community engage on a positive note that allows you to see my open hand and feel welcomed and understood and heard and answered. And then you also need to understand that if you're going to operate outside of the guise of the law, that we're going to hold you accountable for that behavior. So I just want to be clear in that.
Patrick, this is Jay Miller. Can I just jump in here for a second on kind of the historic perspective, too, which I know that both the major and the chief are familiar with. The Baltimore Police Department for a very long time through the beginning of the mid 90s through the 2000s relied heavily on pretty aggressive policing in those specialized units. They had a variety of different names. Most recently, the Violent Crime VCID. And they were, groups of officers that had a little more free reign if you talk to the ones who were participated in it. And they also led to an increase in complaints from the citizenry of being disrespected, of excessive force, et cetera, and slowly that effort was kind of disbanded. That effort really kind of got us to where we are with the Department of Justice consent decree and the unconstitutional policing allegations that got raised. And I think it's really important for everyone to understand that for years, the Baltimore police officers, this was kind of the way things were. I did many stories during the zero tolerance years of how officers were held to account as a performance measure for the numbers of arrests and field interviews they made. And that means that you are telling an officer, arrest as many people as you can, because you'll look better for it. So this is not going to change overnight. This is going to take almost a sea change in training and supervision to get to a place where officers feel comfortable that they know the rules of engagement. And I hear the major loud and clear, and I also hear communities loud and clear. And this is just from all of the stories that we have done for decades, this is going to take a time to get to a place where both police officers and the community have a much more comfortable relationship.
I totally agree. Listen, give me just a second here, you all. Don't touch that dial. You're listening to Patrick Henderson's Meet the People on WOLB 1010. High noon coming up on you.
WOLB Baltimore, a Radio 1 station where information is power.
Thank you for listening, and thank you for y'all remember what I say, information is power, but it ain't no power if you don't do nothing with it. And we got some power sitting up in this room. Would like again to thank Major Cherie Briscoe of the Baltimore Police Department, Chief of Patrol Osborne Robinson, and Attorney A. Dwight Pettit, and Charlene Foster, and Jane Miller from WBAL, and City Councilman Christopher Burnett. Thank you all for joining us. Wayno, I believe you have a question or comment.
Yeah, my thing was like, just coming from the grassroots perspective, I completely understand everything that you're saying so far as you expecting the best out of your officers and you send them out to do the right job. You know what I mean? And expecting them to do the right job. But from my experience, you can't say what they're doing if we're not going to have body cameras, if we're not going to have, oversight. A lot of these officers, regardless of what they say leaving that district, when they come out on those streets, they treat people like animals. You know what I mean? And a lot of the times, until they know who I am, or I say who I am, or they run my name, and then it's like, okay, cool, you're one of the good guys. But me and Pat has been together where they grabbed me, snatched me out of the car, slung me around, beat me, and then say, oh, I'm sorry, we was looking for somebody up the street. You see what I'm saying? So we're not coming or just talking like, off the top of our heads. You know what I mean? With a lot of, I don't want you to feel, and I don't want even one of you to feel under attack. We're here to have a conversation so we can find a common ground because of the disconnect between the FOP and the police department. You know what I mean? It's real. I mean, and I'm only saying this because of not just what we see, but also the conversations that we've had with other officers. You know what I mean? And we're trying to find ways to work together. But it's more difficult when you got someone who has been historically racist over the whole, you know what I mean? Like, all right, for example, we sat down and talked to an officer and he said, yeah, well, we're not trying to just go out and snatch every black man, but our way of looking for a criminal, it needs to be updated. We need more efficient ways of searching and finding, rather than somebody calling over the CB and saying, look for a black man with a white tee and blue jeans. So, and and this is what officers have said to me. He said, when we talked about, you know what I mean, how, go ahead, big brother.
What I would say to address that is, first and foremost, the manner in which we develop intel and disseminate intel definitely has to be improved, and it has to be improved with technology. The second thing that I will say is this: we really take intel to a whole another level right now, and we focus not just on people, but people and places. Sometimes the people correspond to the place, sometimes they do not. But what we do is we put out persons of interest, so we actually have pictures. And we also develop, we've used Sketch, we use social media and put things out so that we can get input back from the community. But there's also an aspect of when someone dials 911 and they give us a description, we have no control over that description. So
I
we
completely understand.
We have the option of trying to operate based on a limited amount of information, and using that information to try to help us at that particular moment in time, closest to the point of receiving the information, or doing nothing with it. And so when a citizen calls in and says there's a group of black males standing on this particular corner, and we receive that as dispatch, I don't think that you all are saying that you don't want us to respond, and at least look at who's on the corner at that moment. Now, as a black man from Baltimore, born and raised, went to city schools, I know what that feels like, right? And so I know what it feels like to be on that corner at the point of contact. But at the same time, being on this side of the fence, I also know that the officers are operating with the information that they're given at that point in time. And most of the time, or in many cases, it's very limited, which is why when they respond to the corner with that limited amount of information that you just described, that they're going to engage the people who are at that corner that fit that broad
and I completely understand and completely agree with what you're saying. Don't get it twisted. My father was an officer. My uncles were officers. All my uncles and everybody were military men. You know what I mean? But when I came of age, that's like, they was like, you're not joining that police department. You see what I'm saying? Because of the foolishness. I mean, my father, the police literally beat me up just because I was running down the street. And my father ran out and said, what the hell are you doing to my son? And they're like, oh, no, this your son? You see what I'm saying? So I know exactly what you mean so far as being a black man right here in this and having to deal with it in this environment. But what I'm trying to say is, when you see a young black man, that is what has to change. How you see that young black man. There's no way in the world that you just see a kid running and instantly just go up and just start slinging him around. They do not do that to no white kid nowhere. You know what I mean? And then when it does happen, it's such a huge outcry that, you know what I mean, that they get immediate response. It's dealt with immediate. These people are fired. I mean, and I'm saying this because right now we're seeing officers get fired, you know what I mean, for shooting someone's dog rather than being fired for killing a young black man.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, and this is just, I'm not pointing the finger at nobody here, more so than the system that we all should be fighting to make change to. You see what I'm saying?
Leo,
I'm not, you know.
Yes, Leo, please.
Yes. Am I correct, Chief Robinson? You are a deputy commissioner?
I'm a chief.
You're the chief of patrol?
Yes.
Okay. Working out of headquarters?
Yes.
Okay. Now, for anyone listening, and of course we got a lot of resources in this room and on the phone, my concerns regarding open-air drug markets, which I interpret to mean that when I go to the Avenue Market, which is occasional, that as I walk around in the market or as I'm approaching the market, there are folks who've got drugs or something they're offering that is visible and is understood for sale. And I'm wondering, and I know you can't share secrets, but are you surveilling those people who are selling drugs in the open air? And can you not make a case, and I'll be criticized for this, but can you not make a case for that surveillance if you're using undercover people, as I'm assuming that you are? My other question concerns the confiscation of drugs, whether it be marijuana, cocaine, whatever it is, and the melting down or confiscation of guns. We're told that happens periodically. Where do I go to get that information? Do I go directly to the commissioner of police and ask, How frequently? Twice a year, quarterly? Are these guns melted down and destroyed, and or drugs? And who contracts to see that this has happened? Where does it happen? Who observes the process? Who oversees it, and who certifies that this is?
To make a call, please hang up and try again.
We lost somebody.
Yeah.
Hang up.
Could you find that for us, Uchenna? Sorry about that. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, who certifies?
To make a call.
Drop the
What line is that? I don't know where that is.
Both of them.
Could you find it? Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Who certifies that this is happening? And not accusing anyone of anything, but we're hearing all stories about drugs going in the door, in the property room, and going out of the property room. That may be fiction, in fact. But how do we, the citizenry, determine what happens to drugs and those things that are illegal and the process?
All right.
Is it out of state or in state?
Let me go back. Thank you, Leo. He's getting out in front of me here, which is okay because he is the leader, and I honor him for his brilliance at his age.
I'm very old, very, very old. About 97.
Yeah, right. But I'm just a year behind him. Are you going to have to go? You're going to have to go. But could you answer that first question, Major Briscoe? You did an article you did an interview with the AFRAM, and in that article you were stating, or they said that you were stating, that it was important that neighborhood associations step up and help, that you all couldn't do everything by yourselves. You really needed the community to step up and get involved, and made us a little nervous because, as we know, there is retaliation for people seeing the criminals seeing us talking to the police. That's or right. Bringing the police in our neighborhood association. So people are afraid to do that. And I would like for you to talk about that a little bit, because you said they misrepresented what you were saying.
So let me thank you for bringing up the article in the Afro. I think it published on June the 22nd. And one of the questions were raised, that was asked of me, is what is it going to take? It's shared responsibility. So what the dialogue wasn't solely about community. That's the work of edit and newsprint. I didn't write the story. I can't control it. It was a larger question and a longer response. So this is a shared responsibility issue. So that also involved community, yes. And so let me be clear. Police are a part of the community. Police are a part of community. It also involved our allied governmental resources, our nonprofits, our businesses. So it was a level of shared responsibility. And so let me just be clear to say, I'm not absent the understanding of the experience of being black in Black America. I too was born here in Baltimore, and am from Baltimore, and went through the school system in Baltimore. So from middle school to high school. So I understand the frustration, the fear, the concerns, all of those elements. You know, I have family that is very close to the space in which I supervise and work, and so I get that. But the point in the conversation that's represented in the article is that we have to use the various means to share information. So we have a Baltimore Police app that you could download if you have a smartphone. The Metro Crime Stopper text line that you could either call in or use a text. There's also the Block Watch number that you can get and still use to share anonymously through your Block Watch number that information, as well as participating in the community meetings. And so one of the concerns that I brought to my community is that when I attend those meetings, there are very few young people in those conversations.
I agree. Yes, ma'am.
So that absent population is the population that everyone is talking about. And so in the article, the question, aside from the police and its official capacity in terms of law enforcing at that moment, who else is going to engage? Now, I do have partners in this fight, if you will, to work with us at a nonprofit that we do great work with. Chief Robinson was on a channel not long ago, about 2 weeks ago, with Joel Gamble and the foundation and the work that we're doing. Every Tuesday, we have a group of high schoolers that we're taking out to work with this summer at the Western District. We have the HYPE program going on that we have young people that are employed, that we're taking through helping young people educationally. So there are other facets and means that we engage. So community engagement isn't simply about our elders, though I appreciate what my seasoned people bring in terms of wisdom, insight, and understanding. And I appreciate their fortitude to continue to stay in the fight to keep communities safe. But this is a shared responsibility to include the absent population that everyone is discussing, our young people. So there's room for them too in this dialogue. We need them.
Yes, we
Not
do.
just on this in terms of policing. We need them in terms of the answer to the problem and the solution to this very dynamic, systemic, generational issue. The issue of drugs didn't start. I saw one of the emails 2 years ago with my arrival to the Western District, and it certainly will not end with the exit of my leadership at the Western District. But that's an issue that has been generational. So I was listening to a history channel about the quote-unquote war on drugs that started in the era of President Nixon in the 70s.
Where they put the drugs in the community.
Born.
Right.
And now here we are over 40 years later having a very similar conversation. So let's just be real honest that this is going to take more than just community.
I agree with you.
We need everyone.
We need everyone.
Everyone.
And we often have town hall meetings and we ask the people, where are your children? Why don't you bring them? But one thing about Wayne and I, we work with after school programs and we ask the kids what they want to be. 80% of those boys say they want to be policemen. Where do we lose them? And I'm not going to talk about that now because I want to keep going here.
I think there's another question too, Pat, in response to the major. This phenomena of drugs being brought into the nation, it was with the Nixon administration, flowed up through several administrations after that, Clinton, Reagan, what have you. But the question that is paramount in my mind at this point in time, this is a national phenomenon that's taking place, but why is Baltimore City so accelerated in terms of the violent crime beyond comparative cities of the same size? Now I understand we've had the great crisis. I understand the FOP, which I believe has a lot to do with what I'm calling taking the knee. But why is Baltimore shot out in such a forward position in terms of murder and violent crime that's distinguishing it from the comparative cities across the nation?
You know, Mr. Pettit, I can say this: if there were any one simple answer, we wouldn't be sitting here discussing it. I think it's a dynamic problem, and I think that when I say dynamic, I mean it's multifaceted, and I know that it involves very many different layers. But I also know, in terms of the fight and war on drugs, the opioid epidemic and what that plays in terms of the potency of the drugs and some of the other pieces that go into play for what we're experiencing in the street. Perhaps it's different in other places. And I know Chief Robinson wants to add to that.
The only thing that I would say to that is it's a couple things. So one, it is a multifaceted issue. And when you start peeling back all the layers and looking at the problem and not the symptoms, then you're going to realize that police and police alone will never fix this problem here in Baltimore. And so while everyone is hyper-focused on the police department, because we're the face of government, we wear the uniforms, so when there are issues, we're the most readily recognizable organization to the people to fix problems, whether it's something that is really not within the purview of policing. We still get involved, and if you not just focused on the violence or the enforcement side of policing, and you really take a look at what Baltimore Police Department is doing in terms of engaging the community, it would be an eye-opener. So if you would take a look at our Facebook page, if you take a look at the Twitter page, if you take a look at the programs that Major Briscoe spoke of, when you look at our bridge program, when you look at the Police Commissioners Basketball League, when you look at the partnership I'm working on developing with Parks and Recs to develop a BPD sports league going in to give young folks something to do, because we all know what an idle mind is, right? And so at the end of the day, we can hyper focus on all of the symptoms and try to treat the symptoms, or we can get really down to the crux, the crux of the matter, which you really have to know, and unless you're blind, you recognize that it goes well beyond what a police officer or what a police department can do. And that's just the reality of it.
That is, I agree with the reality of it, but I've got one question for you. I read an article in the Baltimore Sun that says that 40% of the people brought downtown that they're arrested, 40% of them have mental problems. 40%. Now, you said use a metaphor of peeling. I'm going to talk about lead paint, lead poisoning in our children. See, because this is not natural for us to kill each other like this. There is something going on that we are not addressing because there are still children living in peeling paint houses. How much do you feel? Let's think about. I want y'all to say you're looking a little odd.
I'm not looking odd. I've heard that conversation before, Mr. Henderson. But I can tell you, we like you read and hear the statistics. We feel the effects of it, but I'm not in a position to speak to it because that operates under the wheelhouse, I'd like to say, of the health department. Though we are getting more training on how to engage and how to deal with members of our community that are suffering from mental crisis and mental health concerns, we're not in a position to be able to say this is the sole root of that cause. That's out of my wheelhouse. But again, just as you pose that question, that's how we get questions oftentimes, as just to kind of drill down on the chief's comment, that we're getting all of the pieces of society that you can't get readily those answers to that don't necessarily operate in our wheelhouse, but we still have to have understanding for it, a means to engage with, and bring some semblance of resolve to in an immediate situation.
Yes, ma'am.
And get equipped to do that.
Can I ask a quick question just on the same thing that Patrick was just talking about? Well, with the lead, do you see maybe a similar circumstance with the opioid crisis and the pill crisis? Do you see a level of change in the demeanor of the public and how the public is, the environment is currently based on the fact that you see an increase in these pills, an increase in these opioids?
Yeah, I can say yes. And I had a conversation at one of our most recent community meetings where there was questions raised about the opioid crisis. And I said, well, we've all agreed that the opioid crisis is a health concern. And now you're still asking for us as police officers to use the criminal justice system to address that, which we've already identified as a health crisis.
Yes, ma'am.
So we can't have that both ways.
Right, yes.
So a seller is selling because he has a client base. And that's a health crisis. The client base that is looking to purchase is a health crisis, and we cannot arrest our way out of that.
And I'm going to tell you, family, you know what I mean? We're looking at it from our perspective right here in Baltimore City. I got one quick one for you. You know what I mean? Then we done. My whole thing is, man, I understand completely what y'all have to do as officers. I'm not expecting you to take care of mentally, people that are damaged. But my thing is, like, with us, with our family, like you said, we know the issues that we have being black in America. The officers that are there that see the corruptness that comes from the white officers. When they see, I've been beat up by the police, and I'm stood there and I'm looking at the only black officer, like, brother, stop them from doing this. That code blue of silence. It's what I wanted y'all to speak on.
I'll address that in two ways. First and foremost, the improper actions of police officers are not limited to white officers.
Absolutely.
They're black officers and white officers. And what I can tell you is there is an extreme lack of tolerance for officers who operate outside of guidelines in 2017. That's the bottom line.
Excuse me, I know y'all got to go, but I got to ask you one other question, and I'm gonna let you go.
I'm sorry.
We have been calling. Me and Carlos Muhammad have went to Commissioner Davis, and we talked about why we can't get these kids off of the blocks that are standing around in Garrison. Just had a killing there. Warren Brown lost his son there for the past 4 weeks. 4 weeks ago, 4 people were shot there, and still every day those same people are sitting there on that block. Now, they did good down on Gwen Oaks and Liberty. They got there because there's a policeman sitting there. At Dolefield, we got businessmen, we got money from from the Pimlico racetrack to redo our community. Alder just had to cut down all their trees because these people are sitting out there lounging. They put up no loitering signs and they take them down 5 minutes later. And we have been calling. I've talked to Captain Yerg. I talked to the commissioner. And what do we got to do to get these people off of the street? These wanted to tell me about their constitutional rights. I said, yes, but you must realize we live in that community and we can't go in and our seniors are afraid to go there because they're afraid their purse is being snatched. Then you are hurting our community. They cannot hurt our community. What do you have to say to me? What do we have to do to get these people off of these corners?
I'm going to add in. First of all, I want to say thank you. And I too am familiar with the work that Mr. Carlos has been doing in the community. Because we are. That's a part of the Northwestern District. I'm in the Western District, and they do a great deal of work assisting us in that same battle. And I can't liken it to the instances with the Northwest District in Liberty and Garrison and Gwinnett, but I can say the challenge is always everybody that's loitering isn't committing a crime. The loitering itself is an offense, but that's in the quality of life category for us. So we address that in more than one way. So we cannot simply, based on the loitering alone, take individuals to jail because that's that question.
No, how about just move on?
No, definitely don't want you to come out locking folks up.
So let's.
Well, go ahead, big brother. Tell us.
But that's what we're sitting here talking about, right? We're police officers, and we have to operate within the constructs of the law.
Some of you do. I got a whole, I understand.
We got to operate within the constructs of the law. Now, specifically with that BP gas station that you're referring to, for example, that is one of many locations that we are looking to padlock. But that's not something that we can just say, okay, today we're going to shut you down. That's not how,
I don't want you. I just want you to sit there and say,
let me finish.
Yes, officer, I'm sorry.
What I'm saying to you is that there are legal obligations that we must fulfill. We must look at calls for service, the number that occurred there, what type of incidents have occurred there, whether or not people are really calling versus them saying they're calling, because that's an aspect of it. And at the end of the day, that's what we're working towards. When we try to partner with the business community, but when they're not holding up their end of the bargain, we try to padlock them. That's about, and we have been successful on a couple of occasions.
Yes, Windsor.
And so
we've had some businesses that have tried to, again, curb the behavior in their own businesses and have been attacked. And we've had two merchants on our corridor in Irvington, one liquor store, one convenience store. They try to do the necessary steps to try to curb the behavior in their businesses or inside of their businesses again, but they put themselves at risk by doing so. You know, this is the concern that we have. You know, and then you go and you want to threaten and padlock some of these businesses, but a lot of these businesses are caught in the middle because they don't want this activity, but they also don't want to put themselves on the line or put their lives on the line.
And when there are businesses, again, let's keep it in context. The context of which I'm speaking is that if the businesses are willing to work with us, we work with them. But I'm not going to pretend, and I'm not going to allow you all to pretend that every business in these neighborhoods that you're referring to are trying to work with us. Because you all know, just like I know, that just ain't so.
So I agree with you.
Some of them selling the drugs out of the businesses. Some of them, you know,
but I still want to know is, how can we just have a police car just sitting there? Do you see they've been there too long? Is it allowed to happen in Roland Park?
No.
My boy, he works there. We never see it. So we don't understand why it's allowed. And we understand about people's constitutional rights. But when they go and they take down the loitering signs 5 minutes after they've been put up, we're getting renovations. It's going to be beautiful down there. And people robbing the pharmacy out. Pharmacy been robbed 4 or 5 times. Now we got cameras. And guess who it was breaking in? They wasn't even black people.
White folks.
They were white people that are coming over into our community at night. Wasn't the thugs and the drug addicts that we thought. Pictures, and you guys did a great job of taking those pictures and plastering them all over the city. But we just want to know if we can just have a police car just to sit there and say, well, you've been there so and so, you still got some business, in a nice way. You don't have to disrespect them, but they need to move on because you're hurting business and you're bringing down our community. And we're trying to build our community up, and we want to invest for our children. We got 2 of the best schools in the city there. We're renovating, our houses are selling, our community soon as coming up, but we need you all. We need your presence there, not just to sit there, just to say, all right, move like they're doing on Gwen Oak. I see it every morning when I come here. There's nobody standing out there, and if they do, they move shortly. Just because that cop, the policeman's car, is sitting there, that's all we want, is just to keep the people moving. We don't want you to have to arrest them.
No.
We just want them to move on.
But I hope that you keep statistics on how frequently your men and women walk. And I know they can walk 10 hours a day. They may work 12-hour shifts. But are you keeping stats on how frequently in some neighborhoods guys get out of the car and spend a half an hour, 45 minutes, or maybe they can't spend a half hour, but time walking? Every day there should be some time walking stats kept on police, because that facilitates the contacts that we need with community, because a lot of people, unlike what some expect, that we're going to say if an officer says, how you doing, or good morning, go to hell. No, that's not true. A lot of folks will engage officers in a positive way, but they've got to get to know you. And I know if you're taking a call, you can't walk to it, you got to ride to it. But we want to see more officers out of the cars in teams. I don't want an officer by himself. I would never patrol by myself, quite frankly. Should be always a pair, 2 or more on patrol, in my opinion.
All right, I agree with that, and I'm going to say this, and have you heard of the app called Hero 911?
I have not.
You got to hear about that. They're using it now. The police departments, so it's a film across the nation. It's an app that the police have that they can implement. Whereas when a call comes into 911, every policeman in the area is alerted. So if he's near there, he can just pull around. If he's in the area, he can go there immediately. And they're finding it doing a made for de-escalation, for also getting to the scene soon. It's called Hero 911. Check that out. Yes. And we thought maybe we might put those in those really troubled neighborhoods so that they would have a little more feeling of there's more security. If they call you, if maybe they don't get through to the 911 as quickly, but if there's a cop on the next block, he can just pull around there and see what's up. So I don't know if I would love for you. Would you consider looking into that?
Absolutely, we can look into it. We have become very progressive in terms of the technology that's out on the market and our ability to use it. The things that we do now in terms of the apps, in terms of social media. We weren't doing that stuff 2 years ago. Right. And so, and that's not me on the air saying that we will adopt it, but we're certainly looking at the most cutting edge technology as we move forward.
That's all we ask, is that you do it and you bring it. I'm bowing my head because I am so honored. I know it wasn't easy and maybe it wasn't a hot seat for you. We didn't intend it, but we did intend to make it a little warm. For you all to come, and we thank you for your responses.
Thank you so much
for coming, because you didn't have to come. I know it's pre-holiday, and we thank you for taking your time out, and we wish you the best, and we pray God's protection over you as you protect us. But we ask you really to just really be mindful that we shouldn't have to live in fear of our own people, and we feel as though we could step up in ways you all could, just to make us feel a little more secure.
And I'd just like to thank you for the opportunity to hear my voice. And I know that this was a catalyst from the article in the Afro.
Yes.
So you didn't have to extend the invitation, and I'm grateful for that. And I am appreciative of all of you and your tolerance for our responses to those questions.
Yes, ma'am.
It is a blessing to be called upon. Even in this profession that some would say, oh, no, I wouldn't want to be a police. You would be surprised at the number of people that are still appreciative of our presence.
Yes, they are.
So I know that when we go out every day, I'm not at all jaded on thinking that we're not wanted or welcome. Everyone wants and needs to be respected in this dynamic. And that's our goal, is to be able to police with a level of excellence that allows everyone to be heard and understood and responded to in a respectful fashion. So I just thank you so much for the honor and the privilege, and thank you, Chief, for coming out.
Yes, thank you, Chief Robinson. We appreciate it so much.
You're welcome, and I thank you all for having me. I thank you for the dialogue that we were able to have this morning and this afternoon. It's actually a blessing, and this is what needs to happen, because the only way that we're going to understand one another is that we talk to one another.
Yes.
So that as we go forward, we have to ask ourselves individually, what can I do? And then that's half of it, and the other half is, how do we act once we know what we need to do? We have to act on what we know. So thank you for the opportunity. You all have a blessed day.
You too. So I'm going to leave you in the community with one challenge.
Okay.
And I asked this challenge of my community in recent months. A Citizen Academy now occurs at our training facility, and that gives you an opportunity as community to understand more of policy and understand more of training, so there's more transparency and more understanding. So I'm going to leave everyone with the challenge. There should not be an empty seat when the next Citizens Academy is announced.
Yes, I
so
agree.
that we can all come and have an opportunity to see some things and share.
Yes, would you
for youth and adults?
Would you agree to put that on Facebook Live? See, folks be tired and they can't get there, and they go, Lord, my feet is hurting, and I need to go home and get some rest. Is there any way that you could put it on Facebook and people could look at it just to be?
It's something that you need to experience. We want to get out of we want to get out of these problems, and we want these cookie cutter fast food manner way of doing it. But what we're really doing is putting a Band-Aid on a symptom.
Yes, sir.
Let's just try to make time for what we know needs our investment,
and bring the cheerings with you when you come.
Absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely. So we have an adult and a youth Citizen Academy.
Okay.
So let's really push towards it.
And when does it happen? What is there?
We'll announce the next one.
Okay. Would you come over, call in, and let us know?
Absolutely.
We'd love to go, Jason, and let us know. We'll pump it up for you, and we'll be there.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you all
Thank you
again.
so much.
Happy 4th of July to you. You have made ours even a better day and a brighter day. We bless you, and we thank you for this, for your time.
Thank you for your service.
Yes,
God bless you. Be safe.
Yes,
God bless
yes. We appreciate it very much. Well, Baltimore, you've been listening to it, and the lines are hot. And I know y'all trying to call in 410-481-1010, 410-481-1010. Is it yes, Christopher? Councilman Christopher Bennett, are you still there? Councilman?
Try to get him back.
Okay, now he's gone. All right, we're going to go to Bubby. Bubby, you're welcome to Patrick Henderson's Meet the People. You have a question or comment?
Yes, sir. Great conversation. I have spent 48 years of my life living in Sandtown, Winchester. That is Major Briscoe District. I thoroughly dispute what she is saying concerning the relationship between the young men and the police department. Like I said before, I have experienced the abuse of the hands of the West Baltimore Western District Police Station. And on the graves of my two sons, they're 22 and 26, they went to their grave hating the police for the abuse that they suffered. So this is systemic. And how dare she get on there and try to make it seem like the police is interacted in the lives of those kids. Let me go back to when the Recreation Center, Lillian Jones, was seized by the Police Town program. Let me go back to just a few short months where the kids of Sandtown was out there rioting against machine guns and military-style vehicles. So they get on there and they want to put a cookie-cutter rose, something smelling good on what they have done systemically. Not just the white officers, but the black officers. And now, if you come right now to answer Attorney Pettit question, they have quit on us, led by Major Briscoe. Let me just give you a story. A young man shot at 23 times running south on Leslie Street. The police is coming up Gilmore Street. The murderer ran down the alley. The police kept going down the street. How you not hear 23 gunshots? Then the report says there was a police in the area. They heard the shots. So how could they not catch that person? Case in point, one child, they shot the car a night before. 3 days later, he murdered washing his car. Where is the police in Sandtown at? What are they doing? We are tired of them flipping hot dogs and hamburgers on a cookout to try to think that's all we want, a hot dog and hamburger. We should not have to bargain with you, protecting and serve. If you don't want to do the job, leave. And let's come up for over 30 years of my life, I have protected my community.
Thank you so much, Bub, and we know you have. You protected not only your community, but even your family to the degree that you've lost children. Thank you so much for all that you do. We're going to go to Stephen. I'm going to try to get off the phone because there's a line open, 410-481-1010, 410-481-1010. You're listening to Patrick Henderson's Meet the People on WLB 1010 Baltimore. Stephen, you have a question or comment?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for holding.
Great show, Patrick. You know, you're the best. I just want to say this. basically to try to bring the solution. Also, I want to say, I appreciate the police department, especially Baltimore City, for the great job they're doing. It's not an easy job. Regardless what you want, they will never satisfy everybody. But I will say this, like they said earlier, that fight, we have to be there together. Okay? I hear one of the questions says that what that happened only in a black community, that don't happen to another community. It's because the people that live in that community take ownership of their community. You cannot have every police officer in each door. That cannot happen. The solution is this one. We know the people, because it's a minority, because the perception out there is like, black people are the one who, the majority of black people are the one who create the problem. No, it's a minority, and we know the people, they have committed the problem in our community. We have to be able to call them out. Even though that we take to create a vigilante like another community. That's the way we're going to and work with the police department. That's the way we're going to resolve the problem. It's not, the time is not more about who do what to try to blame everybody.
Are you still there?
Yes, sir.
You called the president. You called Donald Trump president. Are you Republican?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yes,
it does, sir.
Listen,
It
he's our president, right? He's our president, yes or no?
No, he's your president.
He's not your president?
No, he's not my president.
So that's a problem. That's
you,
a problem.
Not for me.
That's the mindset I'm talking about. Because
but
you
guys
come here to try to resolve the problem. You still try to antagonize. He's a president. He's a president. Yes or no?
Not my president.
Every
I didn't vote for him.
action the man take, he's taking that in the name of all the United
Still gets in the same Donald Trump thing.
I know you get into it, and I've heard you. That's the reason I'm asking you. You came here from Africa, wherever you came from. How do you get so insensitive? Why do you get so selfish, sir? Why are you so selfish?
If that was a white man, you would see the racist, right?
selfish?
You see, that's what I'm saying. You guys are so hypocrite. You guys are so hypocrite that now that you come. Now, that was the white man said that statement. You would say he's a racist, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's why I've been saying that it's not about race. You have a black racist, okay? Because I witnessed some black people talking. Oh, go back in your country.
Yes.
Go this, go that. So that was racist. What you just said.
You need to go help your own people. We have enough problems here. You go back to Africa, wherever you came from, and I don't like to do that, but I've heard you several times on the air. And I always notice some Africans come here and then they get so elevated and they make so little money. Then they do what their people and brothers do back in Africa. Screw other people that look like them, their family people. So you picked the wrong show and you don't have to call here again. It's perfectly okay. But I want you to know, no, he is not my president. Didn't vote for him. He's going to do more damage to black people that has been done in the last 50 years, and you can bank on it. And your skin is black. You might have a little funds, but I guarantee you, sir, that you will be affected by it.
Just very quickly, I want to remind everyone that the majority of police officers in Baltimore City are still white men who don't live in Baltimore City, and that the Western Police District is the home of Lieutenant Brian Rice, the commanding officer who commanded the attack on Freddie Gray from the Western District. If there's an absence of justice in our society, then we cannot have equal treatment under law. There has to be justice, and that's why we have a consent decree, because systemically there has not been justice in Baltimore and throughout this nation. And until we bring that to fruition, until we make it happen, the mess will continue.
And that's what my issue was like, y'all got this disconnect with the FOP and the police department because of the consent decree, when all we want was you to police us and not beat on us. How is that a problem? You know what I mean? I wanted to ask my brother Dwight Pettit about that, because it's like, what other reason would they not want to follow the consent decree other than just wanting to crack us upside the head?
And then we got to pay for their retraining.
See, my argument is that this is coming from the FOP.
Right.
You can say what you want. It's not about an individual police, but this take a knee is almost retaliation.
Yes, it is.
For what so-called quote-unquote, you folks did by allowing Justice Department to come in here and get into a consent decree and going through an informational finding task force and cite all the constitutional violations. So since this has happened, we will show you how we cannot protect you.
Yes. I'm going to go to Tony. Thank you for holding, Tony. Welcome to Patrick Henderson's Meet the People. You have a question or comment?
Yeah.
You got 1 minute exactly, sir. Come quickly.
Yeah, so, you ever see that movie Flight with Denzel Washington in it?
Yes.
Okay, did you see how vigorously his union defended him when he was actually at fault? He had some questionable things that went down. He took the plane down. Okay, well, that's exactly how the FOP operates with their members, okay? They go vigorously to defend whatever it is. That's their guys, so, they go vigorously to defend whatever their union member does. So if you can understand that,
then you understand what's going on.
You can see what's going on. So that's the issue. And then on another note, that dude who called, the African dude, that is crazy, yo. That you told the dude to go back to Africa just because he don't think like you.
No, not because we don't think. It's not like me, sir. It's about our people and the price we're going to pay for this ignoramus being president. It's not personal for me. I don't look at it as me. We are a people.
Why he got to go back to Africa? Because he got to
go somewhere. Go somewhere. Get out of.
Why he got to go anywhere? It's a free country. I mean,
it is.
Some people don't like gays and want them to go somewhere else.
And that's their right to do that. But it's almost on my right on my radio show to say what I please.
All right, let me say this, bro. You know what I mean? And I just want everybody to understand there's a difference between being racial and being racist. There's a difference between being, a bigot and being a sexist. You know what I mean? We don't have the power to deny nobody to go in or send anybody anywhere. Right. There are groups of people that do, and they have been hurting all of us. You know what I'm saying? So it really is just, out of frustration, out of anger that certain comments was made that we just do typically because we're human. But let's not walk away from just show, thinking the worst of each other. The whole point is coming to a solution. You know what I mean? Did we say anything when we pissed off? So, but the thing is,
all these double standards and it's disgusting.
No, yeah, I understand what you're saying, and that's why, I'm making the comments that I'm making. You know what I'm saying? It's out of frustration that we say certain things.
Let me say this way now. Martin Luther King says the only problem with humanitarian love is that it loves all things in general and nothing in particular.
So love don't send somebody back to Africa because they don't think like you.
No, but love, the Bible says to come out from among them. To say no. Yeah, exactly. You know why? You know why I told him? Because he comes on the air, and I hear these Africans do that. I heard him on the air on other shows, sir. I've heard him doing it, and he's propagating this crap. But you go over to Africa, and the Rubus don't have these other people, the Ibus, they're against each other. It's tribalism, and we've got to fight it with our own people. We have to come together and stand on. My brother, I love you. I love you because of the color of your skin. But selfishness in our people, when we don't look out for us, when somebody calls you and says that Donald Trump, I should respect him as president after what we saw them do to Barack Obama for 8 years, but then we're supposed to turn our back. They had him with bones going through his nose, calling him witch doctors. No, I tell you, I'm not going to go there, but at the same time, I'm not going to lay down neck like these people are not showing us who they are. And in showing us who they are, I recommend that the brother go back to Africa, and everybody who doesn't think.
Not what they were doing, what they're doing now.
Exactly.
Trying to destroy a health program when they don't even have a substitute or a new plan.
It's unbelievable that anybody could support this incompetence.
I mean, my thing is that we get caught up and pointing and hooping and howling and barking at each other on the outcome of the decisions that they make. You see what I'm saying? We will fall in between these lines of Democrat and Republican. Well, we were talking to the police today about killing us, black people. We'll sit up and we'll argue with, each other of Christianity and Islam when their police were killing black people. When this city, according to the Baltimore Sun, has said that they have historically undereducated black folks in the city, which why we can't get the jobs on the next. Why are we still talking about Trump? Why are we still talking about Democrats and Republicans? Let's not do that.
Rich white men are united in their quest to continue institutional racism. They're together, whether they're Republican or Democrat. They're rallying around.
And that's my thing.
White
That's what
nationalism.
that's what Meet the People is about.
Yes,
that's what
sir.
unification
Let us not be
solutions is about.
divided
Let's
and
hoop, we can hoop
conquered.
and holler and cuss each other, call each other all kinds of names, but we're going to walk away with a solution that unifies our people.
Yes, Eric, welcome to Patrick Henderson's Meet the People. Like I said 1 minute, come on with it, though. What you got?
Oh, man, how y'all doing, man?
What's going on, family?
Man, I sit here and I listen to this whole conversation, man. It was a good conversation. Lately, it just went sour. Like Wayno just said, how we end up beefing with one another, all because of one guy called in and said what he said in reference to Donald Trump. Personally, I understand, Patrick, where you coming from in reference to the Africans, because a lot of them don't share the same views that we share within America, because they come over here after Malcolm X, after Martin Luther King, after the dogs biting our people, after my brothers and sisters being hung from trees, and they benefited from that, and they do not understand what our people who was born and raised here as a whole has went through. So I understand. If you're not in it, if you're not going to throw your skin in the game all the way to support us, to back us, to come together with us, I agree wholeheartedly.
Don't come with the
Patrick
opinion.
Henderson said. This is William Roberts. That's who said that. I agree with it. I'm not going to beef with you about that. In reference to these polices,
That's right.
they serve the union. Everything I heard this morning, like Brother Bubby said, is peaches and cream. We could look. I could ride towards Baltimore City and find your police car right now parked on the side of 7-Eleven where he looking at his text messages or texting somebody. I mean, so don't believe our lying eyes, huh? You know what I mean? I mean, so they sit in these programs. They talking about police have always had programs in the Baltimore community, but evidently it hasn't been working. I mean, I listened to the sister. She said she was born in the 70s, so I'm gonna just say the early 70s. She around my age. I got in the drug trade when I was 10 years old. The police is doing the same thing they was doing when I got in the drug trade when I was 10 years old, and I'm 43 right now. The same thing is going on today. We don't see no difference, and I think they need to understand that. That's what Brother Wayno was getting at. They need to understand that it's more than programs. It's more than you telling a couple of people, oh, I understand. Y'all trying to explain to them to move them off of this corner, move them off of that corner. Just tell them to go in. Well, I hear a lot of justification. I mean, I'm not going to hold y'all time. I know other people, somebody behind me, man.
No, bless you, man. Thank you so much for
man,
calling
I love all y'all. Keep doing what y'all doing. Don't let nobody take away what y'all doing. We meeting the people. We serving the people, man.
Yes,
we help each other. Nobody else.
Sir.
Don't worry about nobody else.
Yes,
like my grandmother said, you do what you do.
Yes, sir. Robbie, welcome to Patrick Henderson's Meet the People.
Great show. Y'all got me laughing today. Got me laughing. I'm proud of you, Patrick, Dwight. Is Leo on the line with you guys?
Yeah, sure. He's sitting right here listening.
I'm a senior citizen, but this is what I want to say about the police. They like to pat themselves on the back. They like to be in denial. They like to think that if they go out and get some hot dogs and hamburgers and they come to see some senior citizens, they should go in the community on the corners with me and Leo and talk to the brothers, talk to the young men. The young men don't come to community meetings with us 75-year-old men. The people in the community would like to see Dwight and Dwight. I don't want to disrespect you, Warren and Stu and all the other Eddie Smith, all the other great guys, because you are great guys. And I put together a community capacity building proposal for Baltimore City Police. I know how to rebuild communities. I know how to generate activities. So, Leo, I get in contact with you. It's a great show, guys. Keep me laughing.
Thank you, Robbie. We got Lady Di. Lady Di, welcome to Patrick Henderson's Meet the People. How are you today?
I'm good. How y'all?
How you doing, sis?
Well, we pretty good.
No ladies in the are they?
Oh, we got sisters ready to jump on right now.
Charlene, yeah, we got.
I mean, are they in the studio? With
Yes,
them?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I don't want to leave no ladies out. I was saying hi, gentlemen. I want to include the ladies too.
Yes, ma'am.
Man, what I heard today is very disturbing, because every time, they make excuses, and I understand about People's First Amendment rights, But we as citizens have rights too.
Amen.
We have right to live
That's
in
right.
peace
Yes.
in our neighborhoods. I don't care what neighborhood you're coming from. You deserve that because that's also in the Constitution. You know that we deserve to live in peace and protected by those people that. Because when I was trying to get in the police department, and back in the 70s, they told me I didn't qualify because my height. I was 5'4". You had to be 5'7" or up. And I was, and then they had a lawsuit, and I didn't know about that lawsuit because I could have been in that lawsuit that they had against Baltimore City Police Department
For discrimination.
I actually really wanted to be a police officer because I knew, I could make a difference.
Yes, ma'am.
But these things have been happening for so long
All right,
that they think that that we're making up stuff, but we're
No, they
not.
know we're not. They know we're not.
But when you was talking about. Patrick, about up there in Dothield. I went up there the other day to pay my phone bill again, and I want to talk to you because I'm going to talk to you off of air because what I saw in this store, one particular store there, they selling scales that that you weigh the dope on. I'm gonna just say point blank.
Paraphernalia.
Paraphernalia and everything that's in that store. I mean, I went to buy some water because I forgot my water, and I'm looking at this, and the man was trying to hurry up and get me out, but I walked through that store and I was looking. I said, wait a minute, if there was a black man, he would have been arrested. His store would have been padlocked. And
I don't know what the paraphernalia laws are in Baltimore, but thank you, Doc.
But I'm gonna tell you that they sell them scales in almost every gas station across the city now. You look up in the window of the gas station, you see they got one of them scales taped up there. Those knives, those little plastic roses that they smoke crack in, like you know what I mean?
Yeah, they sell gelatin capsules.
All that
exactly.
stuff.
Jeff, welcome to Patrick Henderson's Meet the People. You have a question or comment? Turn your radio down. Jeff, turn your radio down.
Still enjoying the show, brother.
Jeff, turn your radio down.
Turn it off.
4, 3, 2, 1. Sorry, Jeff.
Okay. DJ, welcome to Patrick Henderson's Meet the People. You have a question or comment?
Hey, Pat, man, you're wonderful, excellent. You couldn't have said it no better. I mean, if you ain't about helping yourself, then what good is you? Like you said, you the only thing you said, and you was right. Look, if you unhappy with what's going on in here in the United States and Baltimore City, then maybe you should try to go back where you from.
Help your people.
And help your people. Let's just start from helping. Like you said, look, we ain't being racist enough. No, we're not. But let's just keep it real. We need to help our people because it's our people that's dying.
Yes,
so
sir.
I love you for that, man.
Bless
There was
you.
nothing racist that you said.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
We can be racial. I ain't got the power to deny,
Okay,
so
we're
it's
going
not
to try
racist.
to get through these calls right quick. Ramel, I'm sorry. You have a question or comment?
Oh, yes, I might have this comment to say. I've been listening to the program, and the one weapon that they use on us, and they've been using it for years, the psychological weapon of divide and conquer.
Yes, sir.
Right on. Keep going for it. We got to stop that.
Yes, sir.
Then maybe we can unite.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Great comment. Smitty, I'm sorry to have to do that, but we got to keep moving. Smitty, come with it quickly.
Hey, Patrick, I want to thank you very much for this show here, and I stand firm with you on the commitment that you just said. We look out for everybody but our own.
Yes, sir.
It's time for us to look out for who we are.
Yes, sir.
Instead of looking at the police department in the old days and the new days were paid to beat us under the law.
That's right.
It hasn't changed.
Yes, sir.
And I get tired of people that come over from another country and they see a few little beautiful flowers shining and they don't see the real deal that we go through every day.
For 400 years.
Stand by people who's supposed to be serving and protecting us, shooting us in the back, and no one is paid for it.
Yes, sir.
Whatever you did, brother, I support you. I'm 70 years old. I've been in the streets.
Amen, Smitty. Amen.
Come on. Thank you, Smitty. Thank you so much. Jeff is our last call. Jeff, come with it. You have a question or comment?
Yes, I do. First of all, let me say I thank you guys for having this show. And secondly, the comment about the guy shooting the dog and going to jail, and then, they shoot our brothers in the back, and nothing ever happens.
On camera. On camera. Nothing happens.
And at the same time, we still going to jail, but at the same time, no white person has went to jail
Not
for
one cop.
anything like that at all, and I'm sick and tired of it. So at the same time, let me know what I can do except for trying to get someone in office to speak for me, because they're only concerned about is lining their pockets and making sure that they and their families are okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I agree with you 100%. I've only got 3 minutes, and I've got a young lady here, community activist and advocate, Charlene Foster. Welcome, sweetheart. She has an organization called Baltimore Ceasefire. And come quickly and tell us a little bit about it, what you got planned.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. Number two, actually, it's not so much an organization that I created, as we had one citizen resident, Erica Bridgeford, and her friend Ellen G. They put this together, decided, hey, how about calling for a ceasefire before a weekend where we come together collectively and say no violence, no homicides for a weekend, a full weekend. Now, we're trying to get through the day without a homicide or a shooting where it's non-fatal, let alone a weekend. So we're calling on this weekend, and we're inviting all residents, but even people who have a love for Baltimore City, to join in with us in this effort.
What is the date?
The date is August 4th. That Friday through August 6th.
That's a weekend, huh?
That is a weekend. And if you have anything planned, you can just go to our website, actually the Facebook page, Baltimore Ceasefire.
Baltimore Ceasefire. Well, and it's August 4th. I heard an interview that you did last night, and I wanted to suggest something. How about we have the community associations? Let's work a little closer to find a list of them and ask them what they got planned, and see if we can make it more strategic in that people are just really aware of it. Because a lot of people don't listen to the radio and they don't read the news. So, and I'm going to have you back. This is not the last time for all of us. We got the whole month. You'll be here next week. We're going to talk about this. We're going to get this thing on.
And suppose you have everybody knock on everybody's door in their block or neighborhood and say, let's stop killing each other.
Exactly.
This is ceasefire.
Come on.
Who don't know will know by virtue of outreach, personal outreach, laying on of hands. Absolutely necessary.
Yes, sir. 4th of July, family. We under the 83 bridge. Shout out to 300 gangsters. We out there feeding the veterans and feeding the homeless under the 83 bridge on the 4th of July. Love your family.
PFK Boom, we lost you. I wanted to talk to you. Attorney A. Dwight Pettit.
I just want to tell people to be safe this weekend, this holiday. In fact, this was a fantastic show.
Yes, it was.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Charlene, thank you for accepting our invitation. Major Cherie Briscoe, thank you for accepting. Patrol Captain Chief Osborne and Jane Miller and Councilman Bennett. Thank you all. Bless you all. Have a blessed day. Now, don't do nothing stupid with them firecrackers and keep them out of the hands of them cheering. Please. They ain't got good sense sometimes. They just want to have fun. So make sure you look over them. God bless you. We love you. Join us next Sunday at 3:30 on Spirit 1400, and then join us next Monday here on WOLB 1010 Baltimore. It's
gonna be fire.
Say goodbye, Wayno.
Love you,
Say goodbye, Leo. Say goodbye, Jason.
Love you, family.
We love y'all. We'll see you next Sunday. Have a great holiday. Love you much. Bye bye.
WOLB Baltimore, a Radio 1 station where information is power.
Getting out from underneath tax debt has never been easy, and it's about to get a whole lot tougher. The IRS announced that they're putting more boots on the ground to track down and collect from people who are behind on their taxes. If you owe the IRS, you need to call the team at Optima Tax Relief. They're experts in the Fresh Start Initiative, a special IRS program that could save